Welcome back, everybody. I want to dive into our first Palo Alto video when maybe you got a firewall that you bought off the internet. I actually just ran into this not too long ago with a POC, a proof of concept that I was doing with Palo Alto, and I got a brand new box. So then I had to, oh, okay, well, it was, how do I delete the configuration? And that's what we're going to go do. This is actually a firewall that's operational. If we do a show routing route, there are routes in the routing table and stuff like that. And so right now what I have to go do is I have to go through and wipe the box. So there's a command that you can type in called request, and the request system, and it's going to be private data reset. And basically what that says is delete private data. You hit the enter key. It says, let me go ahead and get out of the way real quick. It says, this command will remove all logs and configuration will revert back to factory defaults. The system will restart and then reset the data. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes. So, let me go ahead and, okay, there it goes. So it's going to go ahead and reboot, and we're going to wait for it to come back online. And then once it comes back online, you and I will go through the steps in order to get it bootstrapped and operational. So I'm going to pause the video until the system is completely rebooted, and then we'll go from there. All right. Well, after doing the reset and waiting about 15 minutes for the config to get removed and all that good stuff, we finally are, it actually hung up. It hung up for a few minutes. The actual VNC connection went blank, closed it out, reopened it, refreshed, that type of stuff. So I powered off the Palo Alto firewall, powered it back on, so now it's starting to boot up and come back into play for all that good stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it go through its boot up process. This is looking pretty good, fingers crossed. Worst case scenario, I blow it away and bring out a new one, but I think it's going to work. We're going to give it some time to do its thing. But once it goes through all these steps, once it comes down here, there will be a PanOS loading. Once we get to that, I think we'll be in pretty good shape, hopefully. So, yep, starting PanOS software. So we're in good shape there. What we're going to do is once this is done booting up, it does take some time for it to get to the point where you can actually interact with it. So typing in the username and password of admin, that type of stuff. Once you get the login prompt, like right now, the login prompt is there. So I typed in admin and then admin. It's like, what I'm probably going to end up doing is just deleting the box and bringing out a new one. But now you've seen the reset process and things like that. So right now it's like you type in admin and you type in admin again. So I know I did create another account, but let's try the different password. Yeah, so it's going to continue. It's not ready to log into yet. So we'll give it a couple of seconds to do its thing. I usually give it 2 to 3 minutes after you get that login prompt before it's actually ready to be logged into, and then we can go ahead and do that. So we'll pause, and then once I am at that point, I will bring you guys back in. We'll keep trying. All right, well, the boot up process is finally done, as you can see, and I was using the old password, or I should say the updated password, but it wasn't taking. So I used the admin password to log in. It automatically prompts me to enter a new password. So I'm going to type in the old password, which is admin, and then it says enter the new password. So I'm going to use capital P @SSW0RD, capital P @SSW0RD, Balamo. And now it says that we're in good shape and we're good to go. It does say your device is still configured with the default admin account credentials, and we obviously just changed our password. But so it noticed the failed login attempt, which is fine. So no big deal. Now we're at the point where we can actually get the box up and running. So that's going to be the next step, where we actually have to go through and configure through manual intervention. Now, Palo Alto firewalls by default will use the 192.168.1.1 IP address for the interface management. So we're going to do a show interfaces, and we look at management and hit the enter key. It is going to use, it doesn't say off, the IP address is unknown at the moment. So it'll attempt to use the 192.168.1 network, but because of the fact that we're not doing DHCP, so on the subnet that the firewall's management interface is mapped to, there's no DHCP running on that network, so we have to manually configure it. No big deal. If we just go to global config, configure, tab, and hit the enter key, we go right to global config. We have a few commands we need to type in. The very first one we're going to type in is going to be the set device config for the system type to be static. Okay, that'll automatically convert it from a DHCP based config to a static config. Okay, we're going to do that. Then we're going to hit the up arrow and then backspace to set device config system. And the next one we're going to type in is going to be IP-address. And then we can type in the address we want to use. In this case here, we're going to type in 10.255.1.61. Now, if we want to, we can actually go through and hit the enter key, and then we can enter each one of the lines as we want to. So, for example, I can hit the enter key here, and then I can backspace to the net mask. Because if you do a question mark, you have all these different options. Like net mask is a, where is it? Up here at the top, net mask is its own line. IP address is its own line. The default gateway is its own line, so on and so forth. Or you can do them in succession. So let's hit the up arrow, and we're going to type in net mask. In this case here will be a /24. Let me go ahead and get out of the way. And the default gateway will be 10.255.1.1. And I'll hit the enter key. That's going to commit that config. The next one I'm going to do is going to be the set device config system for DNS settings for servers. Primary will be quad 8. Okay, there's that. And then I'm going to hit the up arrow, and I'm going to change the host name from PA-VM to be PA1. Now, you'll notice that none of the configuration changes are actually taking effect, right? So I'd have to commit the config. But the one last thing you want to do, this is where the security piece comes into play, and not just a bootstrapping the firewall. For those of you that want to control who can talk to the firewall, you need to put this command in here as well. Normally, so like in a lab environment, it really doesn't matter. But because of the fact that we're dealing with a firewall you might be deploying in production, we're also going to throw in the permitted IP, and then you can specify the range. So in this case here, I'm going to type in 10.255.0.0/16, which means, in my case here, anything in the 10.255 network is able to access this box. So I'm going to go ahead and type in commit, and I'm going to jump out of the way while it goes through and begins its commit process. And that's basically it. Once we get through this commit process, then we'll be able to actually log in and do some work on the firewall. So this will take a couple of seconds for it to do its job. I'll pause. Well, it should be done here momentarily. It should give me something in the 70s, and then eventually here in a couple of seconds in the 90s, and then it'll be done. And once it's done, we'll be able to interact with the box through PuTTY and the web access. So let's give that a couple more seconds, and then we'll be in good shape. So it's almost committed. Taking longer than I wanted to. Pausing. Alright, so configuration committed successfully. So if we exit out of here, and we do a show system, and we look at the, it's the show config. No, what is that command? Show actually no, sorry, I have to go back under configure. It's show device config system. There we go. So we can see that the type has moved to static, and that we've got the host name is set to PA1, the IP address is 10.255.1.61/24 mask, the default gateway is 10.255.1.1, and we have Quad 8 is our default gateway. The one last thing that we could do here would be to change the time zone. But I'm going to show you guys how to do that from the web GUI, because everything else we're going to do from here on out is going to be web GUI based, so that you guys can see how to configure that type of stuff. To be honest with you, there's really not a lot of cool stuff to do from the CLI. It's hierarchical, obviously, so that makes it easier to work with. But in the reality of situations, the web GUI is where you want to configure stuff. So unless you want to get into the hierarchical nature, it kind of looks like a Python script in my opinion. But yeah, that's basically where that sits. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go and pull up our box here and pull up Firefox. And I'm going to bring this guy over, and as you can see from here, this has been a box that I've connected to before. So I'm just going to click on this guy. I'm going to accept the security risk, and I'm going to pull up the firewall. So I've already saved the config for this. I'm going to type in admin and then the password and click on login, and then we'll be permitted to log into the firewall. So we're good to go there. I'm going to go ahead and get out of the way. And now we're at this point here. So now that we're just about logged in, we're working with 9.1 code, which is great. We're going to click on close, and you'll notice over here on the left hand side that we don't have a serial number. So we can't do anything with this in terms of operations. You can license the virtual machine, but I'm choosing not to do that. It's actually rather expensive to do it. So to change the date and time, we actually have to go to device, and then under setup, we will come in here, give it a couple seconds to do its thing, and it says the time zone is US Pacific. If we click on the little gear icon here, we can choose this and we can say we are not US Pacific, we are America, and I'm in the Chicago. Chicago is like due south of me. So there we go. So it says it's 1534. It's actually not true. It's actually 1734. So that's what that is. We're going to click on OK. And that is that. So then I'm going to go ahead and I get to commit that config. Commit and then commit again. Alright, so that, ladies and gentlemen, is basically the get it up and running type of deal. And we're at that point where we can actually start interacting with the firewall. And we're going to work through a crawl, walk, run approach. So we're going to take a look at individual areas first to help you understand what the different areas are. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on the architecture and stuff like that because I feel like the free Palo Alto training that's available, which is what I'm going to go take a look at right now. Let me go ahead and get out of the way. I'm going to go bring you guys over to, we're going to click over here and type in Palo Alto Networks. And if we click, and we do a little bit of an extended search here, or actually click right here on Education, Training, and Services, it brings you to this web page right here. And if we click on close this guy out, if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll find that, actually let me come up here to digital learning, click on learn more, and they have a couple of certs. So I definitely think it's, if you were to register here, you can log in. Actually, no, let me take you back to here. If we go to more services, education and training services, and learning center, sorry, my fault. Go to learning center, and what you can do is if you don't already have, you can register. You don't have to be an actual customer. You can be just a regular user. What's cool about it is when you go through this, it lets you log in. So I can log into the learning platform. That's not it either. Why is it giving me a hard time here? This is where if you wanted to dive into the search, you could. let me go to, let's go to Google and look up the Palo Alto PCNSA. Here we go. I don't know why it was giving me a hard time. Services, education, maybe I didn't go far enough. Anyway, this is what I was looking for. So if you click right here, this brings you down to the section. And if you click on the EDU 110, click on that, and then it will actually, you'll have to register obviously, but you can log in, get registered. It's free to do it. That's what the reason why I'm showing you this stuff is. So it walks you through all the theory. And the cool thing about it is there's actually videos that go along with everything. So yeah, you know, there's this kind of annoying female voice that, or to me anyway, that walks you through the explanations and the slides. But then there's also a tab for notes, to where basically it's the transcript of the audio. And all I did is I paused the video, I went to the notes, I just copied the notes out. And then if there was an actual demonstration, there's a guy, it sounds like he's from Texas. He's got a kind of a deeper southern accent. Easy to understand, but he walks you through how to configure different things. There's no actual demonstration of it, the actual feature working. He just says, okay guys, if you want to configure this is how you go do it. My really bad Texas accent. But he walks you through the steps and gets you to where you need to be and stuff like that. So I've also used a little bit of CBT Nuggets for the training, and I've also used a little bit of Udemy. So if you guys are wondering what other resources I've been using, that and the documentation. The documentation it's meh. I mean, it basically gives you click here, done. Like, okay, great. And you follow the click stuff and it gets you working, but the reality of it is I'm more of a do it and learn it type of person, where if I just watch a video or take notes on it, I need to understand what's going on, what is a particular feature, what is it supposed to do. That type of stuff is obviously necessary, but beyond that, you still need to go through the details and understand what it is that they're talking about and go through the actual demos. So if you have the ability to go out and get the access to the Palo Alto software, I recommend you guys go do that and go through that process, because I found it to be very highly useful. So yeah, with that being said, that's basically what I recommend you guys go do. There is a study guide that you can download. You can take the practice test. The drawback to the practice test is once you've passed it, you can no longer take it again. And I'm like, well, that's dumb. So the study guide actually, if you look at the study guide, it's a PDF, about 200 pages or so. The study guide is actually not bad. I've gone through some of it. I'm more or less using it for review of areas I'm not as strong in. So like they talk about, you know, how the config structure works and stuff like that. So you kind of get used to knowing what the command structure is by looking at how things are configured and stuff like that. Dynamic updates, and some things will work, others will not. So as we continue forward, I'll talk a little bit about creating user accounts and then doing some dynamic updates and how you would go through that process. But again, we're not a licensed firewall. We don't have a serial number, and I won't be able to throw any licensing at advanced features like, for example, app ID, content ID, user ID, wildfire. Those things won't work. So I'm going to leave all that stuff up to the training platform here that's going to help you out with that. So if you want to know more about those details, I'm pointing you in the best direction I can to help you understand those details and stuff like that. But those are the areas that I've been playing with, and that's how I've been going about doing it. I have chosen not to go the PCNSE route, which is the next step up, because of the fact that it requires 2 additional courses for you to go through. It requires you to go through the optimization, and then also the scaling, so using Panorama with the PA firewalls. So I've chosen not to do that. I'm just going to do the PCNSA. Once I'm done with it, I'll be done with Palo Alto. So I actually plan on, once I'm done with the Palo Alto stuff, I'm going to go back over to, I want to go do SD-WAN, and that's basically where I'm going to go. With Cisco SD-WAN. So with that. So thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me. If you haven't already done so, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take it easy, guys.